I have some terrific memories from my childhood from when my mom and my grandma would bake. And one of them is when we would get this amazing tart made with a thick and creamy custard. This tarte à la bouillie is a classic Cajun dessert that embodies the flavors and comforts of old-fashioned recipes from my home state. Stick around, I'll show you how it's made. Tarte à la bouillie literally translates into burnt milk tart. It may not be as popular as pralines or beignets, but it's still a staple of many Cajun homes. There are so many different versions of this recipe, from the different ingredients of the crust to the ingredients of the custard filling. My family's version always had grated nutmeg in both the custard and the crust. When this tart is being made, there is always a bowl of or a pot of custard to clean up, and that was something I always look forward to doing. This recipe is simple and can be easily adaptable to include most any kind of berries or even some lemon zest. But for me, I like to keep it simple. Oh, and the crust, it could easily be a cookie dough recipe all by itself. Before we get started, I'd really appreciate if you'd click on the like button and also subscribe to this channel, and click on the little bell to get a notification when I post a new video. You can make either or both in advance of baking the tart and a couple of days ahead of when you want to serve it, as it keeps nicely in the fridge. I'll start with the custard filling, which is done over on the stove. Measure out all of your ingredients to have them at the ready. You don't want to walk away from the custard once you get started. In a medium saucepan, whisk together the sifted flour, sugar, nutmeg, and salt. Mix this to combine. Whisk in the milk, cream, and the eggs until smooth. Cooking over a medium heat, whisking consistently and constantly until the mixture has the consistency of pudding. It should take about 10 minutes. The mixture should hold its shape when whisked. Remove from the heat and add in the vanilla and butter. Whisk until the butter has completely melted. Transfer to a bowl and cover with plastic wrap. This will keep a film from forming on the skin. Let cool to room temperature before placing in the fridge, or until you're ready to bake it. For the crust, I'll be using a food processor, but you can totally do this by hand. In the bowl of the food processor, add in the flour, sugar, salt, nutmeg, and baking powder. Pulse a few times to combine. I also like to give a stir with a spoon. Add in the cold butter and pulse until you get to consistency of coarse grits. Transfer this to a large mixing bowl. In a separate bowl, whisk together the eggs, milk, almond and vanilla extract. Using a fork, stir in the wet ingredients into the dry ingredients and mix until almost combined. Turn out the dough into a work surface. Using your hands, work the dry dough, pressing it until it comes together. Shape into a disc and wrap in plastic wrap, and then place this in the fridge for at least 1 hour. Remove the dough from the fridge and let it sit for about 10 minutes to warm up. Roll out the dough on a lightly floured work surface into about a 12-inch round circle. It will crack and crumble, but just push it together as best you can. Lift the dough into the pie plate. Fix any cracks as you push together the dough into the bottom and the sides of the pie plate. At this point, I like to put the dough back in the fridge. That way the dough can form up for at least 30 minutes. Next, you'll spoon out the custard into the pie crust. Place this back in the fridge for another 30 minutes while you preheat the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 176 degrees Celsius. Right before you bake the tart, brush the edges of the crust with a little cream. This makes it shiny. I always like to place the pie on a foil-lined baking pan to catch any spills and to avoid having to clean up the oven afterwards. Bake the pie for 45 to 50 minutes. After about 20 minutes, you may need to cover the crust with tin foil to prevent any of the crust over browning. Bake until the edges of the crust are golden brown and there is a slight jiggle in the center of the pie itself. Allow it to cool completely on the counter before placing it in the fridge. If you do place it in the fridge, make sure that it's covered. Putting it back in the fridge also allows it to firm up even more. You can serve it as is or with your favorite fruits or berries. We have a blackberry vine in our backyard and the blackberries are just starting to ripen. As I said at the beginning, you can make the custard filling and the crust ahead of time and assemble the tart the day that you want to bake it. Once you bake it, it'll keep in the fridge covered for about a week. I could have probably let this bake a little bit longer so that the center would have firmed up a little bit more, but I still like the way that it turned out because it's super creamy and it's just so much of a memory from home, and it's just like one of those things where you go, oh yeah, that's what I remember when my mom and my grandma would make this. So good. I won't be able to stop. If you make this, please leave me a comment below. Let me know how it turned out. And thanks again for watching. So good.